In my youth, I adhered to the notion of attaining a singular, enduring romantic partnership and achieving a state of blissful perpetuity. This concept may appear to be unadulterated, yet as one's lifespan progresses, unforeseen obstacles emerge, and the aspirations of one's formative years may diminish. In such instances, it becomes imperative to assert one's autonomy and safeguard one's self-interest. Respect becomes imperative. I will recount my journey in that moment. All I could perceive was a cacophony reminiscent of the muted voices of adults in those vintage Charlie Brown cartoons. It felt as though my ability to hear had abruptly shut down, replaced by a surge of rage coursing through me. My knuckles whitened as I tightly clenched my fists upon the table, utterly oblivious to my wife's attempts. Despite my anticipation for a relaxing Friday night with a beer to inaugurate the weekend, reality intervened. My wife, with a mere 5 words, "Honey, we need to talk," dropped a bombshell. Before delving into the matter at hand, I will provide some background information. I am David, a 29-year-old male. I am a 29-year-old male with a master's degree in computer science employed at an IT consulting firm. I am 5 feet 11 inches in height and weigh approximately 205 pounds. I maintain my physical fitness through daily gym sessions and a diet that includes 5 meals per day. A.M. My wife, Mary, is 2 years my junior. She stands at 5 feet 5 inches and has a curvy yet fit physique, blonde hair, captivating blue eyes, toned legs, an amazing figure, and a beautiful face. We met in college, where she was completing her bachelor's degree in accounting and I was pursuing my master's. We immediately established a connection and began dating throughout college. We married approximately 1 year after graduating. Initially, Mary, a strong feminist, considered hyphenating our last names. After some practical discussions, she decided to embrace the name change. Fast forward nearly 5 years into our marriage, and we were preparing to start a family. Due to complications with her birth control pills, we had decided to mark the night of our 5th anniversary by going without them for the first time, making it a special occasion for us. Now, let us return to the moment when this tale takes a dramatic turn. A beer in my hand and seated across from my wife, she uttered 5 words that set my anger soaring. She expressed her desire to try something different for a month or so before we started a family, wanting to clear any lingering doubts before becoming a mother. As I tried to wrap my head around what she was suggesting, I was unable to comprehend how she could want to go on dates with other men while we were married. It felt like she was breaking our vows and expecting me to be okay with it. I expressed my shock and frustration at her idea despite my objections. She insisted it was just a temporary thing and promised to return as a loving and faithful wife after this short period. She attempted to justify her actions by stating that it would not be considered cheating as long as I was aware and accepting of it. She intended to be open about her encounters in an attempt to understand where this idea originated. I inquired as to whether Margaret, her colleague, had influenced her. It subsequently emerged that my suspicions had been well-founded, as she revealed that she had sought advice from Margaret, who believed that this experience would provide clarity before starting a family. I was becoming increasingly exasperated with her, finding her rationale implausible. I cautioned her about the potential ramifications for our relationship, but she remained adamant about going ahead with her plan, albeit reluctantly. I agreed not to intervene during these episodes but made it clear that I would not condone such activities in our shared space. As our discussion continued, I emphasized that if she persisted in pursuing this course of action against my wishes, she would have to face the consequences. I informed her that I would have to leave the house during these encounters. I reminded her that the house was mine, a gift from my parents before our marriage, and that I had the final say on who lived there, despite her resistance. I maintained my position, explaining the possible impact of her choice on a relationship and her living situation. Margaret suggested that she'd proposed that I move in with her. After a cold night, she suggested that I sleep in the other bedroom. However, I asserted that the bed was equally mine and hers. I would sleep there if she did not want to share the bed with me. She could find another place to sleep. We largely avoided each other the next day around 8. At 8 p.m., Mary descended the staircase attired in a black dress, stockings, and 4-inch heels. Her hair was styled, her makeup applied for an evening out, and she was wearing jewelry. She carried only a small clutch. I inquired as to whether she had forgotten anything, such as suitcases, clothes, cosmetics, toiletries, and the like. She dismissed the question, stating that she was only leaving for the night and would return before morning. I informed her that if she departed, would change the locks, emphasizing that she would not reside here if she proceeded with her plan. She persisted. I countered by stating that I loved her enough to let her go, but that she did not love me enough to stay. I mentioned changing the locks and packing her belongings, just as she was about to respond. At that moment, a car horn blared from the driveway. She claimed it was Margaret and said we would talk when she returned home. She was unaware that I had secretly installed apps on her phone, allowing me to track her location, read her messages, record her phone calls, and even access her microphone and camera without her knowledge. As soon as she left, I activated her microphone to record her conversation with Margaret. While they were driving, I planned to listen to it later. I proceeded to work, promptly changing the door locks, reprogramming the garage door opener, removing the remote control, and packing all of her clothes, toiletries, and cosmetics into boxes. 2 hours later, I loaded her belongings into the vehicle. It was time to listen to her conversation with Margaret. Margaret reassured her that my anger would subside after a week, advising Mary to enhance our intimacy and claiming that men could be easily influenced with the right incentives. They shared a laugh and appeared disgusted. The notion of involving another male in the situation with Margaret, joking about leaving her undergarments in the vehicle, was met with amusement. Mary described Margaret's bold personality and her 4 divorces by the age of 26, noting that she had managed to avoid any involvement in a threesome with her while they were on their way to the club. I attempted to eavesdrop, but the noise made it impossible to hear any conversations, so I turned to online banking using her GPS location. I withdrew half the money from our joint account, paying off and canceling shared credit cards. Furthermore, savings were transferred to an offshore account, and approximately 70% of investments were moved into an account in my name. When I observed her GPS moving, I activated the microphone on her phone and overheard her speaking with an unfamiliar male voice. The individual mentioned returning to her residence for some private time, utilizing the spare bedroom and extending an invitation to a person named Margaret to join at a later time. I elected to err on the side of caution and left shampoo and body wash in a spare bathroom. I attempted to obtain a visual of the individual through her phone's camera, but he did not leave a notable impression. The man appeared to be approximately 30 years of age with thinning black hair and slightly shorter than me. Upon their arrival at Margaret's residence, I continued to monitor the situation in the hope of gathering evidence of her infidelity. I realized that the audio evidence could only be obtained if her phone was in the same room. I therefore powered down all the surveillance equipment. When she answered my call, she dismissed my concerns and stated that everything was fine. She was unaware that I had seized the opportunity while she was inebriated and placed her phone on the nightstand, aiming it at the bed. I had reservations about the veracity of this video. I was uncertain as to the admissibility of the evidence in a court of law, but I had sufficient opportunity to observe the couple's intimate activities, which appeared to be more than mere friendship. Mary elected to remain at Margaret's residence throughout the weekend. I was otherwise engaged in household projects and in restoring my 1972 GMC pickup truck, which I had recently upgraded with a new engine, transmission, seats, and a matte black paint job. These tasks, along with cutting off communication with Mary, enabled me to complete the truck and prepare for the impending divorce. I sought legal counsel and began drafting the divorce papers, which I formally submitted. The dissolution of our marriage, as evidenced by the legal precedents set forth in this jurisdiction, appears to favor women. It is widely acknowledged that men often face significant challenges in the legal process of divorce. Women frequently utilize the victim narrative, leaving the financially dependent spouse to bear the financial burden of the dissolution. A philandering lifestyle presents a significant challenge for men seeking to protect themselves. Consequently, on Friday evening, my truck was immaculate, and I was prepared for the night. After a refreshing shower, a clean shave, and a dash of cologne, I dressed in some freshly pressed jeans and a sharp black button-down shirt. I selected a low-slung shirt and stylish rattlesnake leather cowboy boots to treat myself. I proceeded to a high-end steakhouse for dinner. While the specifics of the meal are not important, I will say that the T-bone baked potato and vegetables were exceptional, as was the top-notch service. Notch salad. Now, let us proceed to the main event. Upon exiting the restaurant, I ascertained that Mary was indeed at the club with Margaret, who had arrived approximately half an hour earlier. It was time to implement my plan of action. I had every reason to believe that this would infuriate Mary, and I could not help but smile as I parked a couple of spaces away from her vehicle. This time around, Mary appeared to be the designated driver, which made my plan more feasible. I was able to proceed with a greater degree of ease, as I was no longer concerned with the possibility of leaving Margaret stranded. My primary objective was to persuade Margaret to accompany me, with a clear plan of action and a contingency plan in case Margaret had any moral objections. I entered the club with a sense of confidence, as it was not difficult to locate Margaret. I made a casual observation, noting that Margaret was not expecting to see me there. I then proceeded to approach their table. With a beverage in hand, I timed my arrival to coincide with Mary's departure to dance with another gentleman. Margaret, displaying a certain degree of apprehension, inquired as to my purpose in being there. I responded that it was probably for the same reason as her, namely, that since Mary had moved in, I had decided to visit the club and enjoy myself that evening. Speaking of which, would you care to dance? Margaret inquired, after a moment of hesitation, but ultimately agreeing to the proposition. We proceeded to dance. I proceeded to dance with Margaret for several fast-paced songs before a slow one began. I did not allow her an opportunity to leave as soon as the music started. I pulled her close to me and initiated the party approximately 1.5 songs later. Mary observed me, and I could not suppress a laugh when her initial surprise transformed into fear, suspecting that she had been discovered. After the song concluded, she made a hasty exit. I proceeded to the dance floor and returned to our table, where I observed Margaret casting me a disapproving glance. I was only just beginning to anger her. I continued to dance with Margaret, and I must note that she is a particularly attractive woman. It did not take long for other patrons to turn their attention to us. Mary became aware of this and gave me a look that conveyed her displeasure. As the music came to a close, I placed my hand on Margaret's backside ever so slightly. When we reached their table, I politely escorted Margaret back to it. She even invited me to join them, and I accepted. On our way back, we flagged down the waitress for some drink refills. Being a gentleman, I suggested that we put all 3 drinks on my tab. However, Mary confronted me. She glared at me with suspicion, inquiring as to my reason for being there. I simply responded that I was there for the same reason she was, to drink, dance, and have a good time. She accused me of attempting to disrupt her KN, but I dismissed the accusation, explaining that I was unaware she would be present. Mary attempted to make me jealous by flirting with other men, but I ignored her and maintained my focus on Margaret. We spent the majority of the evening together. They asserted their mutual interest and made it evident that they were a couple. After approximately 2 hours, I decided it was time to take my leave. Margaret was prepared, and we proceeded to return to my residence. She did not appear overly concerned about Mary. In fact, she stated in a nonchalant manner that Mary could find her own way home in the vehicle. I maintained a lively atmosphere, and once we reached her residence, we did not hesitate to engage in sexual intercourse. The situation intensified considerably, and we were largely unaware of the front door being slammed shut. Margaret, for her part, was quite vocal, which probably drowned out any other noises. The following morning, things were somewhat awkward. Mary had a knowing smile while making coffee, but there was little conversation afterwards. I then took my leave, leaving Mary visibly angry. This incident motivated me to reach out to Margaret's attractive single colleague. Despite initial hesitations due to our marital status, I was able to persuade them to accompany me on dates. I informed them that Mary and I were separated, as she had been sharing her office gossip and news about my dates with her friends. This led to growing tension between Mary, Margaret, and the other single women at work. I began socializing with them and inviting them out for drinks, dinner, and dances. This was all part of my grand plan. I strategically showed up wherever Mary was, using GPS tracking and some nifty voice and video apps on her phone. I heard from her coworkers. Despite Mary's attempts to bring other men along on our dates, the workers expressed genuine admiration for our experiences. As Mary's relationship with Margaret began to deteriorate, I found myself enjoying the positive aspects of our time together, which included dining out, dancing, and becoming increasingly intimate. Additionally, I was able to appreciate the nuances of Mary's emotional state, including her frustrations and rants. Overall, I was experiencing a positive and enjoyable period in my life. However, this pleasantness was abruptly disrupted when Margaret decided to initiate a heart-to-heart conversation. Mary and I discussed our plan in detail. Mary expressed disappointment, stating that I was to wait until she had completed her current undertaking before we initiated a family. Even Margaret was perplexed by the situation. However, Mary had another revelation. She revealed that, following her she revealed her intention to resume her relationship with me, particularly given the proximity of our anniversary. We had conceived a grand plan to start a family. Margaret was indignant and questioned why Mary had involved me in this situation. She even spent the night with her husband. However, Mary remained unwavering in her stance. She asserted that she had desired me for years and that I was the catalyst for the current circumstances. She also highlighted that I had been observing all our single colleagues. I had now reached the final stage of my plan. I contacted my lawyer and gave her some last-minute instructions, with just over a week remaining until our anniversary. I was preparing for a celebration that Mary would remember forever when she called to say that she was returning home. I feigned indifference and informed her that I had unexpected plans at home, which included some housework. I even dropped hints about setting up a nursery, which excited her about the idea of starting a family. Fast forward to our anniversary evening and our big party was in full swing. Upon her arrival, Mary was surprised by the festivities. I made a significant announcement, introducing her as the guest of honor. However, Rob's unexpected appearance caused some confusion. I reassured Mary that the celebration was simply an elaborate gathering with our closest friends and family. The evening continued with dinner, drinks, and plenty of laughter. However, the surprises were not yet over. We had made some changes to the house, including a surprise pool in the backyard that left Mary in awe. As we moved to the top floor, Mary gave me subtle hints about her desire to see. The renovations I had been working on led me to believe that one of the bedrooms had been transformed into a nursery. However, I had not anticipated the magnitude of the surprises that were yet to come. I gathered everyone's attention and made an announcement, declaring, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have a few things to share on this special day." I then proceeded to turn off the stereo, creating a moment of silence. All eyes were on me. Firstly, I would like to inform you all that yesterday marked my last day at work. However, only my former boss is aware of this, as I provided a 1-month notice. I would like to take this opportunity to share my plans with you. I am delighted to be able to tell you that I am launching my own consulting company. This move will allow me greater flexibility in spending time with my family. However, before we proceed, I would like to discuss the significance of today. You may be interested to learn that today marks the 5th anniversary of Mary and me. In addition, I would like to share with you a further piece of news. We have decided that today is also the day we will start building our family. This is a special gift to commemorate our journey together. I would now like to make an announcement. I took a step back and gave a nod to the woman with red hair in our group, then spoke up and said, "Mary Bader, you have been served." She then proceeded to reveal a previously unknown detail. 2 months ago, Mary informed me of her desire to date and engage in intimate relationships with other men. She did not explicitly seek my consent, leaving me with minimal options. Consequently, over the past 2 months, she has been residing with a friend and inviting various men to her residence. I found this situation intolerable. To be fair, I also dated other women, but only after Mary violated her wedding vows. In the midst of Mary's outcry, I revealed the truth because of your actions. Mary, I have decided to grant you a divorce so that you can pursue whatever makes you happy, but rest assured, it will not involve me. Mary believed that I was doing some home renovations, which I indeed did. I showed her the new pool and all the other improvements. In addition, I had repainted the master bedroom, put in a new shower, and added a jacuzzi tub to the master bath. I even combined the smaller spare bedrooms into one bigger room for a specific reason. While explaining all this, I became visibly upset. The woman had hair and was approximately 10 years of age. The elderly woman approached me to meet with my lawyer, Era O, and her daughter, Simone. I introduced Tara, who is a single mother, and we have grown quite close over the past 2 months. Once the divorce is official and she is no longer my lawyer, we plan to reside together. Tara and Simone will be moving in with me. I then concluded by stating that Mary had requested my belongings. I had previously asked Mary to retrieve her suitcases from her vehicle. You will not be returning here. I had made it clear that I would not tolerate this behavior, yet Mary proceeded to disrupt our marriage. Mary was in tears, her family was yelling in the background, and most of our friends had left. My own family was just sitting there in shock. Simone's father, Tarun, discreetly went upstairs, prepared for this kind of reaction, as we had discussed earlier. In truth, Tarun and I had not even shared a kiss. We had dinner together, spent some evenings with her and Simone at their place, but we decided to put everything on hold until my divorce was finalized. Mary had divorced her husband 5 years ago for cheating. She left the house multiple times but never found that same spark again after everyone had left. I had no idea where Mary had gone on that same day. I deleted all the spy apps I had on her phone. In all honesty, I was no longer concerned with her actions. Should I have handled this situation differently? Perhaps I should not have involved Tara and especially Simone, but why did I pursue this course of action? The answer is anger. I was enraged by Mary's actions and sought to demonstrate to others that her selfishness had caused irreparable damage to our marriage. I wanted her to experience the same pain she had caused me. My feelings of love transformed into pure hatred. I desired for her to comprehend the extent of heartbreak and bitterness that she had inflicted upon us. In retrospect, a more mature and less painful approach could have been taken, such as serving her with divorce papers at work or presenting her with evidence of her actions. However, I acted on my instincts, and the result was that Mary eventually returned to Margaret. This arrangement lasted for a couple of weeks. Prior to the onset of discord between the two women, I frequently observed Mary in the city, her demeanor oscillating between despondency and indignation. We did not engage in cordial greetings, and when I encountered her family during social gatherings with Tara and Simone, they directed disapproving glances in our direction. However, we now regard this as a mere formality. Regarding Tara and Simone, Mary initially resisted the dissolution of the marriage but eventually recognized it as an inevitable outcome. Tara, recognizing the futility of her efforts, allowed me to apply some pressure by continuing to socialize with her colleagues. Eventually, Mary signed the divorce papers, swayed by a colleague's positive report about our night together. The day those documents officially ended my marriage, Tara and Simone moved in with me. Tara and I tied the knot a year later, and another year after that, we bumped into Mary at a street fair. Mary, upon seeing Tara's the second narrative concerns a 32-year-old woman who has been married for 5 years to a 33-year-old husband. Approximately 1 year ago, her husband's office introduced a new employee, whom we will refer to as Jess, who was 25 years old. My husband often expressed his displeasure with Jess to me. He found her behavior to be bothersome. He felt that she attempted to appear knowledgeable on matters beyond her experience, despite her relative youth. He also took issue with her tendency to laugh at seemingly trivial matters. Additionally, he criticized her carefree attitude and her choice of attire on one occasion, describing it as clownish due to her use of red lipstick. It seemed as though every time he returned from the office, he was preoccupied with discussing Jess and her actions. The content of his complaints appeared to be relatively mundane, such as her teasing him by calling him an old man, which he found particularly irksome. It seemed as though this Jess individual was a constant source of his thoughts and concerns. One day, while we were shopping, I inquired about his opinion of my footwear choices. He responded that I would look stunning in the shoes I was considering, but then, unexpectedly, he then made a remark that I found particularly disturbing. He said that he was grateful that I did not have feet that smelled like Jess's. The latter had been wearing strange shoes the previous day, which had made her feet look strange. He then proceeded to express his intense dislike for Jess and to refer to her as his nemesis. This sudden outburst was completely unexpected. What further fueled my suspicion was when I noticed that he had followed Jess on Instagram. I was sitting on our couch watching a movie when he began scrolling through her profile. He spent a considerable amount of time viewing her content on the platform. I observed his profile and noted that he was viewing her content. This led me to question why he would engage in such behavior if he truly disliked her. When I inquired about it, he dismissed my concerns, stating that I was being absurd and that I should be aware of his animosity towards Jess. He made me feel uneasy for even entertaining the possibility of something more than mere interest. However, my instincts told me otherwise. If he truly held such strong negative feelings, it would not be logical for him to bring her up in every conversation. What is the appropriate course of action in this situation? I have obtained some information that she was engaged in an emotional affair with another individual. I discovered this when I accessed my husband's phone. Before raising the issue of privacy, I would like to present the facts. I confronted my husband about the affair and he eventually confessed that he has a romantic interest in her. He even took a day off from work to go hiking or simply spend time with her. He asserts that they did not engage in any physical contact, but their messages indicate otherwise. Despite the absence of physical contact, including kissing, the nature of their interactions appeared to be flirtatious. Consequently, I inquired directly about his feelings towards her. After some initial reluctance, he eventually acknowledged that he had developed a crush on her. I then sought to understand the motivation behind this interest. His response was that she imbued him with a sense of vitality, inspiring him to engage in daring actions and making him feel distinguished. I must admit that I am perplexed by this turn of events. I have been for several months, I have been suggesting that we take a break and fulfill our dream of going to Italy. However, my husband has consistently provided only excuses. I have considered informing him that he is pursuing a fantasy and falling for a version of her that she is presenting, but I am not in a position to convince a man who is in love and willing to cheat on his wife of 5 years simply because she is not as energetic as he desires. I have left our house and am staying with a friend. I have not yet decided on divorce, but I am considering it. I am fearful of having to start anew at the age of 32. I still desire to become a mother, but that would necessitate spending my prime years searching for another man. It is astonishing that he has fallen for the manic pixie dream girl archetype. If he truly desired energy and adventure, he would not have to look far. I would be amenable to hiking and spending quality time together, but instead, he has chosen a girl he claims to hate, although he does not truly feel that way. He has been contacting me frequently via calls and text messages. It would be prudent to cease attempting to salvage the relationship. The individual in question has even proposed resigning from his position and implementing changes, yet I am uncertain as to the efficacy of such measures. I am unsure as to the optimal approach for this update. For those unaware, I have elected to proceed with a divorce, given the information he has divulged. I do not believe reconciliation is a viable option. The day after my last post, he requested a conversation. He stated that he is prepared to be forthcoming because he does not want this situation to irreparably damage our marriage. He has expressed willingness to engage in therapy and counseling. He has acknowledged having a romantic interest in Jess and engaging in fantasies about her. However, he asserts that these are merely fantasies and do not reflect reality. Notably, despite the absence of physical contact, he has admitted to a moment of weakness where they engaged in masturbation in front of each other. He maintains that he did not touch her and that they merely engaged in their own activities while seated in his vehicle. Jess is said to have initiated this act, and he asserts that it was a one-time occurrence. The issue of time is not a factor in this situation. There is no further involvement. He has been pleading with me to return home, but he has also been alternating between begging and blaming me. The entire situation is surreal, and I am uncertain about the future. When I informed him that I wanted a divorce, he began cursing at me. I have already served him with the divorce papers, but I have not received any communication from him or his lawyer. I am aware that some individuals may believe that I am making a significant error in judgment. I am aware that this decision may be perceived as hasty, but I am uncertain whether I can trust him again without trust being a fundamental aspect of the relationship. Interestingly, my parents have expressed support for my decision. My mother, in particular, emphasized that I should not have to beg for love and respect, and that his actions demonstrated a profound lack of respect. She also highlighted the importance of respect in a relationship, which aligns with my perspective. Regarding my previous post, I wish to clarify that I did not intend to offend anyone by suggesting that women over 30 are less attractive. My intention was not to imply that older women are inferior in any way. I was socialized in a culture where women over 30 were sometimes perceived as being of lesser value. My parents and family members do not espouse this view, yet I have encountered individuals who do. This has had a certain degree of influence on my own beliefs and attitudes. I have been attempting to unlearn these beliefs, but they still remain to some extent. Regarding the future, I am currently unable to make any predictions. My depression and anger prevent me from thinking about the future with any clarity. I should also mention that I have been in therapy since I was 25. A marriage is a partnership, yet the responsibility for its dissolution is often placed on one individual. My husband's infidelity, which occurred in the context of a relationship with a colleague, has led to my decision to initiate divorce proceedings. However, I have been subjected to criticism for my role in the breakdown of the marriage. The assertion is that I am responsible for maintaining the relationship, whereas my husband's actions were driven by a lack of interest in the marriage itself. This perspective ignores the fact that, in many cases, there is no clear distinction between infidelity and a lack of commitment. My parents have been supportive throughout this process, as have many of my relatives and friends. However, there is a perception that, in the absence of emotional attachment, the act of infidelity does not carry the same weight. Even my own brother is berating me for leaving my marriage, telling me I'm giving up too easily and should grow up and fix it instead of breaking it. However, I have my doubts. Why is it my burden to fix something I didn't break? I've been a loyal wife to him and never strayed. Is it not the case that marriage is a partnership with mutual effort? I've noticed that many women and men feel pressured to accept the narrative that they're breaking up their family by the pressure I am experiencing, particularly from my own brother, is a significant source of frustration. I am questioning whether I should forgive my husband, or if I am entitled to pursue a better future and express my anger. Ultimately, my husband and I are pursuing a divorce. His relentless efforts to convince me to stay are causing me immense distress. Legally, we are still married, but I have learned that he is now dating his work colleague. The same girl he previously expressed disdain for is now a frequent subject of his social media posts, despite his previous lack of activity on Instagram and Facebook. I believe his intention is to provoke me, and I feel foolish for monitoring his interactions with her. Her profile is filled with images of them together, accompanied by captions such as, "We husband." I understand her immaturity, yet I find myself preoccupied with these developments. I wish I could remain indifferent, but I'm struggling to muster the strength to do so. I'm attempting to project confidence, but I'm not succeeding. I attempted to employ the gray rock technique, but it was challenging. Regardless of his actions or the extent of his humiliation, I still loved him. I had dreams about our future together. It is daunting to contemplate rebuilding my shattered trust while he is engaging in intimate closeness with. I am continually reassuring myself that the affection he is displaying towards his work colleague is not genuine, that he is merely infatuated with the archetypal, manic pixie dream girl. However, it is painful to acknowledge that he has chosen her over me. I initiated the divorce proceedings and the subsequent move out of our marital home. I had aspired to become a mother with a supportive husband, but I am now forced to confront the reality of my situation. Time is running out. If I were in a more desperate situation, I might be able to forgive him, but I am unable to do so. My heart is unwilling to allow it. I am struggling to understand why his work wife is more important than his actual wife. I am also struggling to understand why I had to compete for his attention when she was getting it for free. I do not want to be jealous, but I am. I would prefer to be able to reconcile, but based on my personal characteristics and my accumulated knowledge, I recognize that this is not a viable option for me. It is challenging to maintain a contradictory lifestyle where I outwardly express indifference towards him, yet I still experience emotional distress due to the realization that he has seemingly replaced me. I am attempting to move forward with my life, but I am currently separated from my husband due to, in addition, he was involved in an emotional affair, which I suspect was also physical, although he has not admitted this. I was unable to continue in the face of the overwhelming evidence of his emotional affair. 2 months have elapsed since our separation, and he has already commenced a relationship with another. Currently, I am experiencing depression and anxiety, and I have commenced therapy. However, I feel low, particularly during the holiday period, when we used to spend time together in a comfortable and private setting. I had not anticipated spending the holidays alone, but I believe I have made a mistake. I am currently residing with my parents, and I have a history of hosting large Christmas dinners. I recently became acquainted with a man who is the son of my father's friend. He is divorced and has a child. We subsequently engaged in sexual intercourse. I acknowledge that I was experiencing feelings of loneliness. I am not typically inclined to engage in casual sexual encounters, yet I am burdened by a profound sense of guilt. The issue is not the proximity itself, but rather the fact that I am still legally married. I still feel a sense of attachment to my former spouse, even though he has already moved on with a new partner. I am curious if any individuals who have initiated romantic relationships following a separation have experienced feelings of guilt regarding their involvement with other partners. The husband and his affair partner have recently opted for an open relationship. Just a few days ago, he contacted me by telephone, leaving me uncertain about his intentions. Our divorce is scheduled to be finalized in a few months, yet he has already initiated a new relationship with his affair partner. He called me and we engaged in some casual conversation. Then, unexpectedly, he requested a meeting, despite the late hour. The time is 10 p.m. I firmly declined the offer, somewhat surprised at the turn of events. The very next day, I was informed by a friend that my former partner's new partner had posted on social media about embracing an open relationship. The post commended my ex for embracing her polyamorous identity, indicating that they were now in an open relationship. This revelation left me deeply perplexed, prompting me to question the person I had married. How could he undergo such a drastic shift from our previously established monogamous stance? Our previous stance on monogamy is now untenable. It is challenging not to question the choices made by my former partner. He betrayed my trust, subjected me to immense pain, and is now in a relationship that is incongruous with our previous shared values. This has prompted me to re-examine my understanding of his character and to consider whether these facets of his personality were always latent, waiting to emerge.